so much. I'm so glad to be here. And Daniel, this is also a topic very near and dear to my heart, both personally and professionally. At the Venture City, being founded by two very strong female founders, it's kind of in the DNA of the Venture City to focus on diversity. Diversity in terms of socioeconomic background, ethnicity, gender, education, so lots of varieties. We invest in diverse founders that are looking to achieve global impact. And I'm so honored to be here today with Margarita Alborz. So welcome to the stage, Margarita. So Margarita is the founder and president of Socialness Foundation. Margarita has 10 years of experience in the impact field. So I know, Margarita, you have a ton of experience to share with the audience today. Very honored to have you here. And I would first like to ask you, what does diversity mean to you? And why is it so important?
Thanks, Brooke. Well, I think diversity is, at the end, recognizing that each of us is unique, is different. And as you are saying, there are different dimensions that make us unique, like gender, age, physical abilities, socioeconomic situations, and many others. And I think it's recognizing that, but also to embrace that difference, right? And also even celebrating that difference. I think it's really important because we are here in this Forum South Summit where there's a lot of talks about sustainability, for example. And actually we are in a world that is facing great social and environmental challenges that are complex, that are urgent, that are wicked, that are global. And we really need the point of view of those of everyone who is involved in this type of challenges, right? When we build startups, we are thinking about how the needs of the users, we need to solve needs of others, and if we are close to those needs, we will be able to solve this or build solutions more aligned with that. And I think that we need to move beyond diversity and with many other concepts like inclusion, but also even belonging. Verna Meyers, who is the VP of Inclusion Strategy at Netflix, she says that diversity is being invited to a party, and inclusion is to be asked to dance. And I think belonging, it's more that you feel comfortable enough in order for you to ask others to dance. So I think we need to achieve that goal of everyone feeling that empowered and comfortable enough and with this emotional state where they feel that they can really be part of the solution.
Definitely, and who doesn't love to dance? And so I'm really glad that you brought up the inclusion topic, because I think that's so important when we talk about diversity. And I think sometimes an important thing is diversity, inclusion, impact can kind of get a reputation of as a charity, which, from an investing side is not how we view it at all, right? The numbers actually show that more diverse teams do perform better, and we've seen it in our portfolio time and time again. We're really excited this year to have about 40% of our startups this year with female founders, and just bringing those diverse perspectives in all the different kind of diversity areas you were talking about really does make an impact. And it's not just, something nice to do, but also from an investor standpoint, it is a financially sound thing to do. So we have seen better returns. So that's really exciting to see that kind of impact.
I think you are completely right. It's not, it's just because it's an equity or a just thing to do, it's because it makes sense. In order for you to understand the complexity of the problems that we face or the global context that we face, the market, you need different perspectives. And you can only have that if you, in your team, have this perspective from people who have different backgrounds, different experiences that can put that and bring that to the table.
Definitely. Yeah. And so in terms of Socialness, I want to get a bit further on what you guys are doing today. How exactly are you incorporating this grand idea of diversity and inclusion on more of the day-to-day?
Well, at Socialness, we are a foundation that was born 11 years ago as a pioneer organization in Spain, working with entrepreneurs that wanted to have a positive impact. So we run different programs to support those entrepreneurs, but also we foster impact investing, so more and more asset owners and asset managers can mobilize their capital towards impact. And as part of our work with entrepreneurs, at some point, we realized we started supporting very early stage entrepreneurs, but at some point, we started developing programs, more kind of investment readiness programs. And we realized that in one of those cohorts, we just had one woman out of 8 startups. Wow. So we said, okay, what's going on? I mean, for earlier startups, maybe earlier stages, we had more kind of balance, but when you are looking for investment and all that, we saw this difference and we decided we had to do something about it. So we launched an initiative called Women Investors and Startup Summit in order for inspiring women to connect women investors and founders and talk about learnings, experiences and all that. And it went really well and helped us also get closer to the founders and understanding the challenges and all that. But apart from this type of actions that we are doing, also from our investment side, we are in our, for example, FI initiative, which is the one that is looking to accelerate the mobilization of capital towards impact, working with investors. We always try to select funds that are investing with a gender lens perspective, or for example, this year we had a Canadian VC fund investing in indigenous entrepreneurs.
Oh, great.
So trying to letting people know that, as you are saying, this makes sense, and fostering that type of concepts and views. We are also promoting with with a fund, Subi Capital, a seed fund for women and minorities. But apart from all these actions, we are also reflecting, we have been reflecting in the fact that not only we need to do specific things for these profiles, which of course I think we need to do, but also how we can, in all the activities that we do in our regular programs, really put the focus on attracting, or more in the belonging side that I was mentioning before, right? That how we can communicate what we do, how we, our network of mentors, for example, can be more diverse, so the entrepreneurs, the investors, the mentors feel also called to be part of our activities, which I think it's also important that in our day-to-day activities, programs, we make sure that we are calling them to be part of it, and they feel that they need to be part of this.
And I love what you're doing, Margarita, especially in terms of the networking, and it goes beyond just providing funds. The founders that are maybe from the emerging markets might not have such access to these kind of experts, the network that you can provide in other VCs, and I think that's really important to be able to encourage, and of course, like you said, to invite them to the dance. So that's fantastic. And in terms of kind of going on a more personal level, so as a female entrepreneur, have you faced any challenges? How have you found, the journey as being a female entrepreneur?
Well, I started Socialness 11 years ago, as I said, so I was in my late 20s. And
not long ago.
It seemed long ago. And I mean, at the beginning, I didn't realize of many things. I mean, I studied engineering, and I think when I was a student at university, there were only like 20% of female engineers studying and all that, but I couldn't really see the difference. But once I started being an entrepreneur, at some point you realize, I mean, sometimes are minor things, or at least for me, it hasn't been nothing like very dramatic or something like that. But yeah, comments like when they see you like in a very paternalistic way, or they talk to you like if you were kind of almost a child, and maybe I was already a mom, and I was in some conversation that they were talking to me like it was a kid or something like that, these type of things. But then Talking with other female founders, and I don't know, maybe you also have experience with the female founders you support at the Venture City, you see that at some point, for some women, this is really an issue, and some of them, even when they need to pitch, for example, for doing fundraising, they don't even do it themselves. They ask a male colleague, which is not maybe the CEO, the one to do it, and things like that. So you can see that they really feel and sense that there's kind of a disadvantage for them being a female CEO pitching, for example, or doing fundraising.
Yeah, I've definitely seen firsthand the questions, and even just the slight wording can be much more kind of demeaning or aggressive, and so that's unfortunate to see, but I think it's being brought to the forefront even more now. So that's
in
good.
fact, there's a study that was done like some years ago at TechCrunch in one of these pitch competitions, where they were studying the type of questions that VCs used to do to the founders. VCs that could be male or even female, and they found out that the type of questions done for male founders are more kind of asking them about the projections, the future, their vision, how they can grow the startup and all that. And for the female founders, the type of questions done by male VCs or female VCs are more related to the risks that they may face, how are they going to overcome the barriers. So not enabling the female founder to show all the potential that their startup has, right? So there's this type of biases that we have, and this is something that is we need to be aware of that.
Yeah, lots of questions on why do you think you can compete with the big competition and the big fish. I know personally I was a founder before. I started a company after the MBA. Maybe not the most sound financial decision with student loans. But another kind of thing I've noticed too is in the emerging markets, the diversity there. Luckily for us, we had fallbacks. We could go back to our home countries, we could go find other jobs. And a lot of founders today don't have that kind of safety net, or getting to the first grant, to the first investment can be quite difficult. We did the ramen thing, but sometimes it can be very hard. So I think it's important too that we look at the emerging markets and hubs that, as we all know, talent isn't just in Silicon Valley anymore.
Definitely.
And so finding those hubs and being able to contact and reach those founders. I don't know how you found, the various founders. You guys are working globally with all kinds of startups.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, as I was saying at the beginning, the challenges, the needs are everywhere. And emerging markets, especially when we are thinking, in our case, in impact, it really makes all the sense, because you are thinking about building startups that are solving real problems, and maybe it's many times related with basic needs of the people, but at the same time you have huge markets.
Right.
And they are the ones who are suffering that situation, their communities. So they are the best prepared to really solve them, right? And I definitely think that's the way to go. And thinking about the talent. Yesterday, I think in the arena there was also this panel, and they were specifically saying that. And sometimes we think in the United States or Northern Europe, like the place where, and obviously there's a lot of talent and the ecosystems that are there, but when you go abroad and you see other countries, other ecosystems, you see that here in Spain or everywhere, or in emerging countries, you can really find people willing to do things and very talented and very passionate. And at the end of the day, being an entrepreneur is also about motivation, right? About being to change things, and the personal side of an entrepreneur is huge. It's so important. And when you are really solving something that it's very close to you or your community, makes you really put everything to make this a success.
Yeah, you make a really good point. One of the things that we've seen in our portfolio is that there have been teams that actually have not met in person before, so they are fully remote. And I think the pandemic has actually accelerated this in a great way for diversity, because our founders are able, well, founders everywhere are able to really search for talent in different areas that, or geographies that they might not have looked at before. And like you said, there is incredible talent coming from these areas. And so I'm really excited to see that. And I think technology and the pandemic, unfortunately, has really helped that. I don't know if you've seen technology kind of affect diversity in other ways.
Yeah, I think accessibility, technology allows accessibility to resources, to education, to forums like this one, for example, where everyone can see online. And we have also taken advantage of that. Last year, our programs, our Forum for Investors was online. And so we really could reach people in different countries. This year, for example, we had people in Iran, for example, attending virtually, obviously, but you can access people that are, or they can access content, information, connections in a global way. So I think really that it's helpful for the diversity, definitely.
Definitely. And I would say on the scouting side, we've seen that as well. So we can do lots of Zoom calls with people from all over rather than having to travel. And I think it makes it cheaper for the founders too, which is great. So in terms of kind of the global perspective, what other initiatives would you like to see, or how does impact investing specifically play a big part in this?
Well, I think, as we said before, for me, one of the clues for having a more diverse ecosystem in terms for startups or also VCs is being aware of these unconscious biases that we all have. Once we are aware, I think we are able to tackle them. But if we are not aware of that, we just will continue perpetuating the status quo. So I think being aware and for that, talking about this, I think it's one of the first steps that we need to take. Also, I think that creating specific vehicles, specific initiatives for specific groups, the ones that are less, more underrepresented, I think are also important. So when we can see these funds for Black founders, for example, also female founders, but others, you can really see that many of these VCs are ones who before were entrepreneurs who suffered that difficulties in fundraising and all that, and they now want to see that change. Because at the end, sometimes, fundraising is a lot about network, right? And they have maybe this network that is more aligned with the entrepreneurs and their profile. So I think it's important that we have these specific funds. And also, as you were saying before, to prove that it makes sense. From the financial point of view, it also makes change. But you need specific people with this goal of really supporting. And this comes, for me, back to the equity side that we were saying before, right? That when you think about diversity, you think about inclusion, but you think also about belonging, as we were saying, but also about equity, that really you want everyone to have the same opportunities. It's the first thing to be, and also you don't want to miss talent or opportunities because just because of their demographics or whatever, as we were saying, right? So for that equity, you really need to know that you need kind of to do different kind of support or help, right? I think these new funds that are focused on these groups make sense because it makes the focus on these groups need specific help, more help maybe than others. So I think that's important. And once you do that and you align those interests, you will prove that it makes sense. And then you can bring it more mainstream or more, as I was saying before, as part of all the funds, or programs or etc. having these profiles, right?
Definitely.
And I think impact investing is true that it makes sense from the impact investing side to support equity or fighting inequalities, right? Because at the end, when you are doing impact investing, what you are doing is to try to intentionally create a positive impact with your investments. And there are SDGs that show us that there are gender inequalities, there are different inequalities that need to be solved. So
Exactly.
it's really, it really makes sense to align impact investing with diversity.
Definitely, and I think it's all of our job, right, to invite people to the dance and to have that inclusion. I think we are out of time, but Margarita, thank you so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me here today. Lots of great insights, and really appreciate it.
Thanks, Brooke.